So in the space in front of you, visualize Shakyamuni Buddha. The whole visualization is made of light. So he's seated upon a throne that is supported by 8 great lions. On top of the throne there's an open lotus flower, and then the moon and the sun disk. So the lotus, moon, and sun together represent the 3 principal aspects of the path: renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct view. To show his mastery of this, you imagine your spiritual mentor in the form of Shakyamuni Buddha. His body is made of golden light. On his head is the crown protuberance, symbolizing the great merit that he created. He has 1 face and 2 hands, and his right hand touches the earth, and the left is in meditation posture in his lap, and it holds an alms bowl full of nectar. He wears the 3 saffron-colored robes of a monk, monastic, and his body is adorned with the signs and marks of a Buddha. It emanates a flood of light going in all directions. You can think on top of all these light rays emanating out, there's a little Buddha going out to each and every sentient being. He's seated in the Vajra position and is surrounded by all of your direct spiritual mentors, so those who are your spiritual mentors, and also the lineage lamas, by deities, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, heroes, heroines, and an assembly of Dharma protectors. In front of him, on exquisite stands, are all of his teachings of Sutra and Tantra in the form of books of light. And so think that the Buddha, all the spiritual mentors, all of the figures in the merit field are looking upon you with acceptance and with compassion. And because they look at you in that way, naturally what comes up in you looking at them is a feeling of trust and confidence that makes your mind very open to receiving the teachings. So focus on the visualization of the Buddha, and also imagine that you're surrounded by all the sentient beings, for as far as the eye can see. And we're all looking together at the Buddha and the other holy beings with a mind that seeks safety, that seeks refuge, that seeks instructions on how to free ourselves from cyclic existence, how to attain the happiness and peace that we wish for ourselves and others. And then we recite the verses together and really focus on the meaning of the verses as you're reciting them. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every type of offering, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all my negative actions and committed since beginningless time, and rejoice in the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. I dedicate all the virtues of myself and others to the great awakening. This ground anointed with perfume, flowers strewn Mount Meru, four lands, sun and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered to you. May all beings enjoy this pure land. The objects of attachment, aversion, and ignorance, friends, enemies, and strangers, my body, wealth, and enjoyments, I offer these without any sense of loss. Please accept them with pleasure and inspire me and others to be free from the three poisonous attitudes. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. Glorious and precious root Guru, sit upon the lotus and moon seed on my crown, guiding me with your great compassions. Bestow on me the attainments of your body, speech, and mind. The eyes through whom the vast scriptures are seen, supreme doors for the fortunate who would cross over to spiritual freedom, illuminators whose wise means vibrate with compassion. To the entire line of spiritual mentors, I make request. Taya ta mani mani maha mani soha. 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 Taya ta mani mani Mahamuniya Soha Tayata Muni Muni Mahamuniya Soha Tayata Muni Muni Mahamuniya Soha. So really feel that purifying light from the Buddha and coming into you, purifying all negativities, bringing with it the inspiration and blessings of the three jewels. And then let's make the request to the Buddha. The fact that I and all other sentient beings have been born in samsara and are endlessly subjected to intense dukkha is due to our having failed to attain a superior realization of the great potential of freedom and fortune and of the difficulty of attaining these. Guru Deity, please inspire me and all sentient beings so that we may attain a superior realization of the great potential of freedom and fortune and of the difficulty of attaining them. The opportunity to practice the perfect teaching is called freedom. The presence of all inner and outer favorable conditions for spiritual practice is called fortune. In brief, the life with freedom and fortune that we have attained carries great potential because on its basis we can create the causes of a high rebirth with an excellent body and resources. These causes being generosity, ethical discipline, fortitude, and so forth. In particular, on this basis, we can generate the three kinds of ethical codes, and in a short life of this degenerate age, easily accomplish Buddhahood. May I not waste in useless activities this life complete with freedom and fortune that is difficult to attain and carries great potential. And instead, may I take full advantage of it. Guru Deity, please inspire me to be able to do so. And then, contemplating this, imagine, in response to your requesting the Guru Deity, a 5-colored light, white, yellow, red, blue, and green. Light and nectar stream from all parts of the Buddha's body into you through the crown of your head. It absorbs into your body and mind and into the bodies and minds of all sentient beings, purifying all negativities and obscurations accumulated since beginningless time, and especially purifying all illnesses, spirit interferences, negativities, and obscurations that interfere with attaining a superior realization of the great potential of freedom and fortune. Your body becomes translucent, the nature of light. All your good qualities, lifespan, merit, and so forth expand and increase. And think in particular that a superior realization of the great potential of freedom and fortune has arisen in your mind stream and in the mind streams of others. So concentrate on this visualization and on thinking like this. recall your motivation for listening to teachings, placing it very firmly within being of benefit and service to sentient beings, and wanting to attain Buddhahood in the long term in order to do so. Okay, so we're gonna start on the topic of precious human life. Last week we talked a little bit about rebirth and the possibility of being born in different realms of existence and so on, because, and I hope you really contemplated that, because that will help you understand the different qualities of a precious human life. Okay? So in a friendly letter, Nagarjuna, when in our verse it was saying that, did it say here? Yeah, the opportunity to practice the perfect teaching is called freedom, and the presence of all inner and outer favorable conditions for spiritual practice is called fortune. Okay? So in the friendly letter, Nagarjuna went through what the 8 conditions of freedom. So 4 of them are non-human states. So we're free from being born in the hell realm, you know, a place of intense suffering due to, doing extremely negative actions. The preta realm, or hungry ghost realm, where there's a lot of hunger and thirst and dissatisfaction. The animal realm, that is characterized by ignorance and inability to defend oneself very often. And then to be born as with a long life God. Okay, so actually here it includes all of the form realm gods and the formless realm gods, but especially the gods in the 4th form realm, called Great Result, because they lack discrimination and they only recognize when they're born and they're dying. Okay? So sometimes translated as perceptionless gods. Okay? So if you're born in any of those states, if you know, as a hell being, a preta, an animal, you're too busy just trying to stay alive and deal with your constant suffering, that you have no time to turn towards the Dharma, and not really the intelligence either to be able to hear teachings and understand them. And as a long-lived God, the mind is too spaced out. In your samadhi, you only are recognized when you're born in that realm and die in that realm, die from that realm, and so, no opportunity to practice. So, if you really spend some time thinking, well, in past lives I've been born in all those kind of states, and you imagine what it's like, and then you think, and this life I'm free from those kind of rebirths, then it really brings you a sense of, whoa, am I fortunate, to be free of all this. Okay? If you can't really think of all the different realms, think at least of the animal realm that we're familiar with. Yeah. And what would it be like, being one of the critters that lives in the garden, one of our birds, or being one of our cats. You have a big garden with lots to eat. You have, as a kitty in this monastery, you have so much love, but no ability to understand the Dharma. Yeah? No ability. And as much as we talk to them about being kind and not killing, they just look at us, you know? So, you know, just to have the human intelligence is really quite a wonderful thing. You know, it gives us so much possibility. And then there's 4 human states that we're also free of being born as. So the first is as a barbarian amongst uncivilized savages, or in a country where religion is outlawed. Okay? So being born in some place with a society that has no regard for religion, that also often could sound like consumerist America, doesn't it? Yeah? But a place where there's no regard for spiritual practice, except if you're right-wing. I'm joking. Maybe. Or you're born in a place where religion is outlawed. Okay? One of my friends used to go before the Soviet Union and the Soviet bloc fell apart, he used to go to the Soviet countries to teach the Dharma, and he was telling me, I think it was in Czechoslovakia, which wasn't even the most stringently communist place. They would have the teachings at somebody's house. Everybody had to come separately, because you can't make it look like there's a group gathering, because you know you might be plotting to overthrow the government. And so after everybody got there, they set up a card table in the, in the front room, and had the cards and beverages and everything all dished out. And then they went in the back room and had the teachings. But in case somebody knocked on the door, they could easily go into the front room and sit down and be playing cards. Now imagine for a minute what it would be like to live in a country where you have so little, religious freedom. Even to hear teachings or to do that. Or imagine, during the Cultural Revolution in Tibet or in China, where even if you were moving your lips saying mantra, you could get beaten or imprisoned. Yeah, extremely dangerous. Or, where they made the monks and nuns disrobe and scorned them publicly and did horrible things. Yeah. So just imagine being born in that kind of situation. You can't practice the Dharma with that kind of stuff going on. You're just trying to stay alive. Yeah. Or being born in a country where there's constant warfare. Yeah. Very difficult to practice the Dharma there. Now again, you're just trying to keep safe and get enough to eat. And who knows what's going on around you with the bombs, going off and whatever. Okay? So we're free from that kind of situation. And, when you think there's a lot of people on this planet who are living in that situation, then, how incredibly fortunate we are. Mm-hmm. The second of the human states that we're free from is being born in a place where the Buddha's teachings are unavailable, or where the Buddha hasn't appeared. So, for example, the Buddha appeared in, the 6th century BCE, but, there were human beings before that. You're born in that kind of situation where the Buddha hasn't appeared. The Buddha hasn't taught, or you're in a place where there's absolutely no access to the Buddha's teaching. Yeah, it's outlawed. Maybe the country, only permits one religion. Yeah, everybody has to be that religion, and if you aren't, too bad. And there's many countries like that. Yeah. So how incredibly fortunate we are not to be born in that kind of situation. We get emails from all over the world from people in far out countries who have no access to the Dharma teachings where they live, saying, thank you so much for putting the Dharma on the web. Yeah, and for streaming these teachings or having the written ones on the website or whatever, because otherwise quite difficult for them. Then third is we're free of being mentally impaired or deaf or dumb or blind. Now, I think in ancient times being deaf or dumb or blind was much more of a handicap than it is today. Today, you know, you can find Dharma books in Braille. Yeah, if you're deaf, you can read. You know, I think in ancient times this was much more of a hindrance than it is now. But being born mentally impaired is a hindrance in whatever time period it is. Yeah, because if we don't have kind of some kind of basic human intelligence, we wouldn't understand the teachings at all. I remember some years ago, I was invited to Denmark to teach, and one woman at the center worked for a home for children, you know, that were born, I think with, most of them had birth defects that affected their mind, you know, their mental capacity. And Denmark's quite a wealthy nation, you know. So I asked her, you know, can I go and meet some of the children? And she took me. And I remember going into this huge room, and all these my first impression was like just bright colors, cheerful, bright colors, and toys, and building blocks, and paints, and you name it, you know, all around. And then I started hearing, you know, and all kinds of strange sounds. And when I looked closer, I saw that among all these toys and cheerful things, there were the children. And some of the children couldn't walk. I remember one of them was on like a little platform about this big with wheels, and he could push himself around on it. Others who were maybe 7, 8 years old were still in cribs. You know, so much, so much wealth around them, and yet the mental capacity wasn't there to hear the Dharma. Yeah, it was really sad. You know, I engaged with the kids as much as I could. But it was sad, you know, so many other conditions, good conditions, and that one missing. And so if you think, you know, what would it be like to be born like that, and really imagine it, and how limiting it is, and then rejoice at the freedom we have from that condition right now. You know, in previous lives, we've been born with all these kinds of unfortunate situations. In future lives, we may be born that way according to our karma, if we've created a lot of negativity. But at least right now, we're free from that kind of rebirth, and so that gives us incredible opportunity to practice. And so, again, something not to take for granted. I think we take a lot for granted, don't we? Yeah, because this feeling of being who I am right now is so strong that we can't imagine, you know, oh, I would be born as an animal, or I would be born in a country where religion was outlawed, or I would be born mentally impaired. We can't even imagine it. Yeah, because the grasping at who we are right now is so strong. But why not? There are other beings born that way. If we create the cause very easily. Yeah. And then the fourth human state that we're free from is actually the worst one. And this is somebody having wrong views. Yeah. So it might be somebody with a PhD from a university, because secular intelligence has not much to do with Dharma intelligence. So you could think of somebody, you know, some very prominent figure, but their values are completely upside down. Their views are upside down. Yeah, they believe that there's a permanent, unitary, independent person. They may believe that there's no such thing as karma and its effects. In other words, denying that our actions have any kind of ethical dimension whatsoever. Yeah, many people have the view, just do what you want and don't get caught, and that's good enough. Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, or people who have the view, well, make as much money as you possibly can and forget about everything else. I mean, that's kind of the core value of our society and what many people do, and they cheat others and, you know, caused a whole financial debacle here in the US a few years ago because of wrong views. Yeah? Or people thinking, you know, if I kill the enemy, I will get some kind of heavenly rebirth. If I force people to convert to my religion, I get more merit or more brownie points, you know? And so they force people to convert. Oh, I mean, incredible number of wrong views. And so people who have those kind of wrong views, they may meet the Dharma, but it's like, you know, water pouring on steel. Nothing gets absorbed. You know, their mind is so resistant because of the wrong views. And not only being resistant, but often being critical, you know, and criticizing the Dharma instead. So, and we may even know some of those people. They may in fact be our family and friends. Yeah? But if you think about how their lives are being lived, and, you know, is it possible for them to create any merit with the kind of views that they're holding? You know, we see that it becomes very difficult. Because the reason wrong views are said to be the worst is wrong views will impede us from doing virtuous actions. Okay? Because we don't understand why in the world we should do them. Yeah? So they becomes quite dangerous. Okay, so when we meditate, you know, to really imagine these 8 kind of states of being, you know, put ourselves in that kind of situation and see what it's like and ask yourself, can I practice? And then come back to being who you are now and going through listing those states again and saying, I'm free from them, and really see just kind of the feeling of, wow, you know, how fortunate I am. This is unbelievable. Okay? So they say when you do this meditation that you should feel like a rich person who just found a jewel in the garbage. Yeah. I modernize it and say you should feel like a poor person who just found Bill Gates's unlimited credit card use and his permission to use it, you know, so you can go out and get, you know, that feeling of, wow, I can do anything. How fortunate I am. And yet, you know, a person with that kind of wealth is not as fortunate as somebody who's free of those 8 conditions. Because you can have a lot of wealth and a lot of wrong views, or, you know, a lot of other impediments to practice. And then there's the 10 free states, or the 10 fortunes. I'm sorry, not free states, the 10 fortunes. So a Sangha talks about these in his Shravaka Bhumi, or levels, levels of hearer levels, okay? So here there's 5 personal factors, and then there's 5 factors from society. So 5 personal factors. First of all, we were born human. Yeah? So think, what would it be like to be born as one of the yellow jackets flying around here? Yeah? And wow, how fortunate I am to be a human being. Hmm? Okay. Second, we're born in a central Buddhist region. Okay. So this has various definitions, various ways to discern what is a central land or a central Buddhist region. So geographically, it could be defined as our continent, as according to the old Indian cosmology, or our Earth, I guess you could say, and especially, our Earth with the Vajra seat of Bodh Gaya, where the Buddha attained full awakening. So geographically, Bodh Gaya and the Earth around that is called the Central Buddhist land. But according religiously, to decide what is a central land according to religious criteria. So according to the Vinaya, it would be the presence of the Fourfold Assembly. Okay? So the Fourfold Assembly is fully ordained monks, fully ordained nuns, okay, or bhikshus and bhikshunis, and then lay women who have refuge and the 5 precepts, and lay men who have refuge in the 5 precepts. Okay? So those are called the 4 assemblies. And the Buddha, after he first attained awakening, Mara was pressing him, kind of, why are you going to hang around here? Better attain parinirvana. And the Buddha said, I'm not going to do that until I've established the Fourfold Sangha. Okay? So a place where you have, fully ordained men and women, and lay men and women with refuge in the 5 precepts. Okay? So when you're talking about the monastic community, fully ordained lay men and women, you're talking about having a community. So in a central land, that usually means that there's 10 people at least. In a faraway, not central land, it could be 4 or 5. So it's actually having the community. So that's one of the reasons why, when we set up the Abbey, when we got to having 4 bhikshunis, we had a little celebration, because, then that was making this area a central land. Yeah. Okay. Of course, there's in America there were already 4 bhikshunis, from different Buddhist traditions, but not so many in the Tibetan tradition. Okay, so according to Vinaya, the religious definition is the Fourfold Assembly. According to Mahayana Buddhism, the religious definition is where there are Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and the Prajnaparamita. Okay, so it could also mean where you can receive Dharma teachings, the Mahayana Dharma teachings. Okay. Then the third condition or the third of the 5 personal factors is being born with complete faculties. So especially having a sound mind, and all of our other faculties, operating properly. And then 4th is not having committed any of the 5 heinous actions. So these 5 heinous actions, they create so much negative karma that generally it's said that upon your death, if you have committed any one of them, then you go immediately to to the hell realm. Although Tantra says that you can purify these 5 and, not have to experience the result in the next life. But, according to the Sutra teachings, these 5 are quite severe. So these are killing your mother, killing your father, killing an arhat, causing schism in the Sangha community, and drawing blood from the Buddha, so physically harming the Buddha. Okay, so we're free from those, and we're also free from doing any of grave actions that contradict the Dharma. For example, being a fisherman, being a butcher, flying, bombing planes in the military, these kinds of things where you create really a lot of negative karma, so we're free of that. Although it's quite interesting, having said that, Ajahn Sumedho, who is quite well known in the Ajahn Chah Theravada tradition, he met the Dharma because he was a pilot in the Vietnam War. He's American and, was operating planes in the Vietnam War and went to Thailand for R&R and met the Dharma. Yeah? Okay, and then the 5th fortunate condition, personal one, is that we have instinctive belief in things that are worthy of respect. So we have faith in the Buddha's teachings and the Tripitaka, the Vinaya, the Sutra, and the Abhidharma. We have faith in ethical conduct. We have confidence in the path taught by the Buddha. Yeah, so having this kind of faith and confidence is really an incredible blessing in our life, because if you lack it, you could be born in a place where there's lots of Buddhism, but you have 0 interest in it. Or even you receive teachings, you think, what kind of nonsense is this? Yeah? And, when you look around, I've met many people, when you think of these 10, you meet many people who are perfectly nice people, but have these kind of obstacles in their life. Yeah. So just being a nice person isn't good enough to get us to enlightenment. I mean, being a nice person, you can create good karma, that's great. But to really be able to practice the Dharma, we need to have the receptivity in our mind. Yeah. Otherwise, you're like the people the people who come to Bodh Gaya just to sell Buddhist trinkets. Yeah, they meet so many teachers there, they don't care. They just want to overcharge them because they're foreign tourists. Yeah. Okay, then there's 5 factors from society that help constitute these 10 fortunate states. So the first one of those is living where and when a Buddha has appeared. Yeah. So right now, actually, the Buddha has appeared, but he's also passed away. But the presence of our spiritual mentors makes up for it. So the 6th of these conditions is being born where and when a Buddha has come, and then 7th is where and when a Buddha has taught the Dharma. Okay, so the Buddha taught not only the Sutra vehicle, but he also taught the Tantra vehicle. Of the 1,000 Buddhas in this fortunate eon, they say that only 4 of them are going to teach Tantra. So we're actually quite fortunate that we're born at a time also where the Tantric teachings have been taught and are available. And then 8th is living or being born where and when the Dharma still exists. In other words, where the teachings are stable and where they're flourishing. Because the Dharma, could have, I mean, for example, most of Central Asia at one point was Buddhist. Now, zip. In fact, the Taliban blew up the big Buddhist statues. So, having been born in a place where it's still where the Dharma still exists and where the teachings are stable and flourishing. So here too, there's different ways of defining what this means. So one way is saying where there's the transmitted Dharma and where there is the insight Dharma. Okay, so sometimes they translate it as the Dharma of Scripture and the Dharma of realization. It's another translation. So Scripture, sometimes we think just of texts, but what it's actually meaning is they use the word lung, and lung means when you hear the teachings and they get passed down, so the teachings being transmitted. So where we can come in contact with the teacher, the teachings and the scriptures in that way, not just that the books are there, but that we can really hear teachings and read texts. And then, so that's the transmitted or the scriptural Dharma. And then the insight or realized Dharma are the realizations gained from practicing the Tripitaka. Okay, so the realizations from practicing the 3 higher trainings of ethical conduct, concentration, and wisdom, the realizations of the 3rd and 4th noble truth, so true cessations and true paths. Okay. So, having the realized and the transmitted and the insight Dharma, that's one way to say that the Buddha is flourishing in a certain place. And that's certainly, happening now, and we have access to all of this. We're not born in some faraway place, in poverty with no transportation in a war zone where it's difficult to meet the teachings. According to the sutra, then a place where the teachings are stable and flourishing is where there's a Sangha community that does the 3 principal practices. Okay? So the Sangha community, it has to be either 4 fully ordained nuns or 4 fully ordained monks, and then they have to do these 3 practices. So that's again why this year we were so excited at the Abbey, because for the first time we were able to do all 3 of these practices. So one of the practices we've been doing for many years now, since we've had 4 bhikshunis, and that practice is called posada, and that's the fortnightly confession and restoration of precepts that the Sangha does. So some of you have been here on the days that we have our posada. So the Sangha, we do our thing, and then the lay people gather and recite their 5 precepts and take refuge. Okay? So one of those ceremonies is the Sangha doing the posada. The second is called Varsa, and this is an annual retreat. In ancient India, it was held in the summer because of the monsoon rain, and then the Sangha could just stay fixed instead of wandering around in the rain. We changed the Varsa to make it a snows retreat instead of a rains retreat, because we have a different climate here. So we have it in the winter when it's snowy and you don't want to go out anyway. And then the Pravarana is literally translated, it means invitation. It's the ceremony at the end of this annual 3-month retreat that the Sangha does, in which you invite the other bhikshus or bhikshunis to point out any transgressions you may have committed. So you put yourself out there, and if you haven't made amends for some kind of transgression that was committed during the 3 months of the Varsa, then the other Sangha members can point it out to you. Okay, so these 3 ceremonies, the fortnightly confession, the annual retreat, and then the invitation for feedback, or Posada, Varsa, and Pravarana. So, so now we have a Sangha here in rural, eastern Washington, whoever would expect. That makes it, become not only a central land, but a place where the Dharma is flourishing. Okay, according to the Tantra, the Dharma flourishing is a place where the Guhya Samaja Tantra is taught and where people listen to it. So, in all these things, it's emphasizing that we need a living tradition of practitioners and teachers who can impart the Dharma to us orally and by example. Okay? So it's really emphasizing that reading a book, well, I'm sure many people started out reading books, but which is wonderful. And certainly after you've, started practicing, we're supposed to read and study the scriptures and everything. But really emphasizing that getting this transmission, from somebody who has it from their teacher, from their teacher, from their teacher, going back to the Buddha. So having that transmission, and then also having a live person, or persons, you can have more than one teacher, who embodies the Dharma, who you can look to as an example of how to behave as a practitioner. So that's quite important. We need role models, don't we? Okay. And so having that lineage of teachers who have realized the teachings, so that we can also be assured that we're meeting, the Buddha's pure teachings. In other words, they haven't been put in the blender and mixed up with all sorts of other things. Lama Yeshe used to call that making soup. You take a little bit from this, and a little bit from that, and a little bit from that, and you always take things, the points from different religions or philosophies that agree with your own opinions. And so we take all those things that already agree with our opinions and we mix them up, and we come out with spiritual soup that is great because we chose all the different things that we want to believe, and it already agrees with all of our opinions. So it doesn't challenge us in any sort of way at all. Whereas actually, a spiritual teaching should really challenge us. If we listen to the Dharma and we hear, or if we listen not to the Dharma, but we listen to some teachings, and those teachings just reaffirm all of our afflictive mental states, because the teacher is teaching, well, anger is good, because if you don't get angry, you can't tell the difference between right and wrong, and you can't stop injustice. And greed is good, because if you don't look out for yourself, nobody else is going to take care of you. And, so if you hear some teaching like that, and it makes all your afflictions feel very good, then that's the time you should have a lot of doubt. Of course, we're the opposite. We hear those teachings and go, oh yes, that sounds very good, Then we hear the Dharma teachings that talk about the defects of self-centeredness, and then we have so much doubt. What? Not be self-centered? Then everybody's going to walk all over me? What's this person talking about? Okay. Then the ninth criteria is being born or living where and when there's a Sangha community following the Buddha's teachings. So those with like minds who give us moral support and inspire us. Now here we have to talk about what the word Sangha means. Okay? Sangha in its traditional usage. If we talk about the Sangha jewel, that is what we take refuge in. The Sangha jewel refers to any individual who can be a lay person or a monastic, but they have to have realized the emptiness of inherent existence directly. Okay? So the Sangha jewel that we take refuge in is somebody with a very high realizations. Okay? They realize the nature of reality, so they are a reliable refuge. Now, what is the representative of this Sangha refuge or the Sangha jewel is the community of 4 or more fully ordained people. So not even one person, it has to be a community. And that's because there's a certain energy that comes about when you have 4 or more monastics together that you don't have in another situation. Yeah, and people here have sensed it, because we started out with 1 monastic and 2 cats. And, you know, and then gradually the monastic population increased. The cat population increased by 1. We have 3 cats now, and one of them's feral. But, okay, but the monastic population increased. And so you can feel the difference when there's that many people, you know, who are living and practicing together. So that is called the Sangha community, and an individual there would be a Sangha member. Nowadays in the West, yeah, many people are using the word Sangha to indicate any group of people, mostly lay people, who come together and learn the Dharma. Okay? That's a usage of the word Sangha that is not one of the traditional usages. Okay? And it's actually, I think, quite confusing for people, because many people, at least in the West, who go to Buddhist centers may not even be Buddhist. Yeah? And they may not have correct views. You know, they're going because they want to learn some meditation so that they don't, you know, they aren't so stressed, or who knows, you know. So to say, oh, we come here and we take refuge in the Sangha, meaning everybody who goes to the Buddhist center, is very misleading, because first, not all those people are highly realized, and second, some of them haven't even taken refuge in the Buddha. And so it's confusing for new people who come in, because you hear, oh, we take refuge in the Sangha, all these other people. But you know, Joe over here is married and he's dating Kathy over here, because his wife doesn't go to the center, but Kathy does. So he's seeing Kathy on the sly and not keeping the 5 precepts. And Herman over here, you know, after the teachings goes out with, you know, Susie over there, and they go smoke a joint together, and you know, and then these other 2 people, you getting what I mean? You know, it's like you can't say that just because somebody goes to a Buddhist center that they're a viable object of refuge for you. Okay? So that's why I don't agree with calling, you know, anybody who goes to a center a Sangha, you know, a Sangha member, or even calling the group the Sangha. And what I find very interesting in this whole thing is that some of the groups who use the word Sangha to refer to themselves are the same groups that want to be modern American Buddhists, and they don't want to be traditional Asian Buddhists who use all this, you know, traditional language and traditional concepts, but they want to use the word Sangha to refer to themselves.
So it's
Kinda. Yeah? You know, Buddhism is still finding its feet in the US and in Europe in general. Yeah? It's, you have some groups that are very stable with really good teachers and really good practitioners, and you have other groups that are not so stable, where you kind of see what's going on and you scratch your head. Yeah? And yeah, so Buddhism is still quite new here. We shouldn't think that, you know, 20, 30 years and it's well rooted and all. Not so. It's going to take a while. Okay? Okay. And then the 10th quality of a precious human life is living or being born where and when there are others with loving concern. So patrons, people who are sponsors, so especially if you're a monastic, people who can sponsor you, so that you have the 4 requisites: food, shelter, clothing, and medicine, because you need those to stay alive. So there's patrons or sponsors, there's teachers, so there's people around who can teach you the Dharma. You have food, clothing, and all the other conditions that you need to practice. So being born in that kind of situation too is great fortune, because, you know, again, if we have it, if we don't have it, then very, very difficult. Okay? So when we meditate on this, you know, we go through each of these conditions. With the first 8, we imagine being born like that and then come back to where we are now and say, whoa, am I fortunate? Yeah. With these 10, you know, going through them, and you can think, you know, do I have this or not, and this condition or not, and what kind of benefit does it bring to me if I have it? And what if I didn't have it? Would I be able to practice? Okay, so really thinking like that, and then again feeling very fortunate at the end that we have so many, if not all, of the suitable conditions. And then Longchenpa listed 16 additional conditions which could preclude any opportunity to practice the Dharma. So in addition to the 18, he spelled out 16 other ones. So there's first the 8 intrusive conditions. So these are things that can even pop up in a meditation session or in the break time, and they can destroy one or more of the 18 qualities that, you know, the freedoms and fortunes that we were just meditating on. Okay, so here are the 18 intrusive circumstances. Check if you ever have them. First, turmoil from the 5 emotions. Okay, so attachment, anger, confusion, arrogance, jealousy. Yeah, and so these emotions dominate your mind so you can't practice. Do you ever have that? Second, stupidity, lack of intelligence, so you can't understand the teachings. What? Check. Okay. Third, being dominated by evil influences. For example, relying on teachers who teach in a perverted manner, or relying on bad friends who lead you away from the Dharma. Okay. 4, laziness. I think we'll finish this tomorrow. Okay. 5, being inundated by the effect of past negative actions. Okay, so one's non-virtuous actions are such that in spite of all the effort you put into the Dharma, you can't develop qualities very easily. So there's this, you know, whole backlog of non-virtuous actions from previous lives. That obscures our mind. So we try and listen to the teachings, we don't understand. We try and meditate, we're distracted. Okay? And so very often what happens is then we lose confidence in the teaching without knowing that losing our faith is due to our own non-virtues. Instead we think, oh, I've lost my faith because the Dharma isn't the right path. Yeah?
When you do the prostration and you want to purify, where do you put your mind? What do you say that I regret of doing? Because I think of those things, but it's hard to pinpoint.
Okay, so when you want to purify these kinds of things, what do you regret doing? Yeah, so we can't necessarily remember our past lives, yeah, but what we can do is, you know, in various texts, there's lists of different kinds of negative actions. So that's why in the prostrations to the 35 Buddhas, there's a whole list of negative actions in there that we confess. Okay, if you pay attention. In the prayer, the woe is me prayer that follows it, there's a whole list of negative actions there. So you think, you know, who knows what I did in my previous life. When you read the book, The Wheel of Sharp Weapons, there's so many negative actions explained in there. Yeah, or you read the Sutra of the Wise and the Foolish. So, you know, you don't have to remember specific actions, and you don't have to even be sure that you did these things in the past, but because we may have, or because we even have the possibility to do them in the future, because we're not realized yet, then it's very good to confess these things. And
I thought it would have been more specific, but enlarged like it's meaning.
Yeah, but some of the actions are quite specific. You know, stepping over Dharma books. Yeah, being disrespectful to your Dharma teacher. Okay, stealing from the Sangha. Yeah, lying to sentient beings. I mean, this is kind of specific, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, okay? So this is why it's good to purify, too. Okay, sixth is being enslaved to others. So you have no autonomy, and so the person who dominates you doesn't allow you to practice. So we're not slaves, and we're not in a bad marriage with a spouse that controls us. Yeah, because lots of people, you know, they want to come to Dharma teachings, and the spouse has a fit. Okay. Oops, what did I do? I gotta get rid of that. Hide keyboard. Okay. Then the hindrance of seeking protection from the dangers. So we take up the Dharma because of fear of lacking food and shelter and something this life. Okay? So we have no deep convictions, and we just basically give ourselves up to our old habits and ordain with a bad motivation. Yeah, or practice with a bad motivation, because we just think, if I do this, I'll get some kind of support. Then eighth is hypocritical practice. So in front of others, we assume the manner of being a great practitioner who is calm and relaxed and compassionate. And basically what's going on in our mind is the 8 worldly concerns that, you know, wants sense pleasure and approval and praise and reputation and possessions and stuff, okay? So hypocritical practice. Then Longchenpa also talks about the 8 incompatible propensities that separate one's mind from liberation and awakening. So first one, being bound by one's worldly commitments. Wealth, pleasures, children, job, you know, family commitments, and so on. So that you're preoccupied with these, so that you don't have any time to practice. That's a very real one for many people. So many jobs, you know, you have to work so many hours on a job, and then, you know, you have to support your kids, and then you have your social obligations, and then your family obligations, and then your hobbies, and at the end you have no time for spiritual practice. Okay? Second is flagrant depravity, or depravity. So having a bad character and a lack of a sense of humanity. So, you know, just being really messed up in terms of your values and your behavior. 3 is lack of satisfaction with samsara. So we're quite satisfied with samsara. We don't feel bad. We don't have any special feeling when we hear about unfortunate rebirths or the faults of samsara. We just go, oh, samsara is okay. You know, I have enough food. I have a nice family. I'm popular. Yeah, I have this and that. I have nothing to complain about. Samsara is great. You know, I could tweak it a little bit, make it a little bit better. Yeah, that's why I said lack of dissatisfaction with samsara. Okay? And then 4th is absence of faith in the Dharma or faith in our Dharma teacher. So again, when you lack this kind of faith or confidence, then you don't follow anything. Yeah. But on the other hand, you can't say, you can't make yourself have faith and confidence. Yeah, it has to come through understanding. It has to come through your own wisdom. 5, taking pleasure in bad actions. You love to go gambling and drinking and smoking and etc., etc. Hunting, fishing. 6 is lack of interest in the Dharma. Dharma's so boring. Much rather read a sci-fi book. Okay. 7 is being heedless of precepts. So just no conscientiousness, no, you know, not caring about your precepts. And 8 is being heedless of your samayas, your tantric commitments. Your samayas are tantric commitments. Yeah. So not caring about your tantra precepts or any kind of commitments you made. Just, oh, well, I went to that initiation. That was great. You know, they passed out these kind of sweet little pills at the end of it, and they gave me some holy water, and wonderful, you know, without having any kind of reference or understanding of what's going on. Okay, so those are the 8 intrusive circumstances and the 8 incompatible propensities. Have any of those? Okay. So I think we have a little bit of time for questions. People have anything? Mm-hmm.
So what is the tantric teaching? So like what have we been learning?
Okay, so what is Tantra? Okay, when we talk about the Buddhist teachings, we often divide them into the fundamental vehicle and the bodhisattva vehicle. So the fundamental vehicle, you are aiming for arhatship to get yourself out of cyclic existence. The bodhisattva vehicle, you're trying to become a fully awakened Buddha for the benefit of sentient beings. Within the bodhisattva vehicle, there's many sub-traditions. In all of the sub-traditions, you do practice the general Mahayana teachings. Okay, so Tantra is one of those subdivisions. And in Tantric practice, that's where you have visualization and mantra recitation. And it's a much more advanced practice, so there's special precepts that you keep, special commitments that you make. Okay? Other questions? Yeah?
What karma might we have created? What karma that results in mental impairment in the next life.
Okay, so what kind of karma would we create that would result in mental impairment in next life? Okay, well, calling people stupid, yeah, insulting other people's intelligence. I think disrespecting Dharma books and Dharma materials makes you quite ignorant. You know, here, let me just extrapolate and guess. Maybe, you know, being a researcher who destroys the brains of different animals in the laboratory. Yeah, destroying the intelligence and the mental faculties of others. Yeah, things like that, I think. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So to overcome a specific affliction, does it matter which purification practices you do, or is it okay to just choose practices you feel affinity for?
Okay. Well, first of all, there's two things. There's overcoming the afflictions, and there's overcoming the destructive actions. Overcoming the afflictions, we have to apply the antidotes to the afflictions. So those, the ultimate antidote is the realization of emptiness, and then other antidotes are affliction specific. So meditating on impermanence for attachment, meditating on love to overcome anger. If you're talking about purification, we're usually purifying the destructive actions that are done under the influence of the afflictions, okay? So there's a variety of different practices to do, and you know which one to do. Well, all of them have the four opponent powers. I mean, to be a complete purification practice, you have to have the four opponent powers. So regret, restoring the relationship by taking refuge and generating bodhicitta. Third is making a determination not to do it again. And fourth is some kind of remedial action. Okay? Then within that, you know, you can do those four opponent powers with the prostrations to the 35 Buddhas, with the Vajrasattva, with this meditation we're doing on Shakyamuni Buddha. You know, you can do those four opponent powers mixed in with that. Sometimes it's good to consult with your teacher. Your teacher may, you know, think that one or another of these is better for you at a specific time. Sometimes they say that the prostrations to the 35 Buddhas purifies faults in your bodhisattva practice. Vajrasattva specializes in purifying breaches in tantra commitments. But actually, they all work for everything, I think. Yeah. So, but sometimes you can consult with your teacher to see if there's one you should emphasize, or very often people do, you know, both the 35 Buddhas and Vajrasattva on a daily basis. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Do you have to be accepted into a true sangha as a lay person, or are there
Do you have to be accepted into a true sangha as a lay person, or is there a step to do so? What I was just describing was that the only situation in which a lay person would be considered sangha is if they have realized emptiness directly and have, you know, they are an Arya. Yeah, but normally people who go to Buddhist centers are not considered sangha. Okay, I hope maybe that person who wrote that question wants to reword it. Maybe there was some kind of misunderstanding there. Can you attain Buddhahood in the demigod realm? They say that human beings and desire realm gods can attain the path of seeing. I don't know about Buddhahood. I mean, human beings can attain Buddhahood. So the demigods, yeah, they're considered desire realm gods. So I guess maybe they could attain the path of seeing. But it's usually said that they're very jealous and they're very busy fighting with the gods. Yeah, so hard for them to take out some time to listen to teachings and practice. Yeah, it's not a realm that you want to pray to be reborn in. Put it that way. Okay? Yeah?
Is the mind non-self? What is the heart?
Is the mind what?
Is the mind non-self?
Is the mind non-self? What is the heart? The consciousness is not the person. Okay, if that's what the question was, okay. We talked about that this morning. You know, the consciousness is not the I. It's not the self or the person. In Buddhism, they use the word chitta and sometimes it can be translated as mind and sometimes as heart. Yeah. So, from a Buddhist perspective, there's not mind and heart and brick wall in between, but it's mind and heart. They use the same word to refer to that cognitive experiential part of us. Mm-hmm.
In our discussion group this afternoon, we talked about how we maintain hope.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to some of the things you just said and seeing myself and so many of these, I'm just wondering, how do we not get discouraged when we see that we may fall into so many different categories?
Okay, so when we hear especially these, these 8 propensities and so on. So, and we see that they apply to us, how do we keep from getting discouraged? You practice, you remedy them. Yeah, I mean, it's like in your life, if you have a problem, I suppose many people sit there, they have a problem, they sit there and go, oh, woe is me, I'm so discouraged. But if you do that, you don't solve your problem. Yeah? So you have to get up and do something. It's the same, like if you have financial problems, do you sit there and get so discouraged, oh, I'm not as rich as these people, I don't have the same reputation, I don't have as much money, my whole life is worthless, oh, this is terrible, I can't even afford to go to a therapist because I'm, Yeah, I mean, it's like, give yourself a break. You have the potential to become a fully awakened Buddha, so use it. Yeah, discouragement, according to the Buddha, is a form of laziness. Yeah, and if you look in your life what you've done so far, yeah, okay, so you have some of these things. You can overcome them, or at least you can lessen them. Yeah, what's this thing about, I have to be perfect, and if I'm not perfect, then I'm not worthwhile? What are we doing to ourselves in our culture that people get so discouraged over, things that are pointless to get discouraged about? Yeah? Who cares if we're perfect? Doesn't matter. Yeah, what's important is, we found a path that works. Practice it. Yeah. Uh-huh.
When we were talking about our emotions, I was talking about anxiety. Yes, I would like to go back to Mexico. And it's like half of me is happy because I'm going to be with my family. But the other half is like afraid to go back because of the situation. So, how can I have the courage to go back to my environment and, not being afraid?
Okay. So you're saying you have to go back to your own country, and you're concerned about the environment that you're going to be in. What is it that concerns you about the environment?
About all these happening right now, the drug utilization.
Okay, so all the narcos and everything. Okay. So, yeah, so you're worried even about your physical safety. Yeah. Okay. So, I would say cultivate loving kindness towards all the people, even towards the people who you could be afraid of. Yeah? Because if you can see that what they're doing is because their own minds are obscured and overcome by confusion and ignorance and afflictions, and so have some kind of compassion for them, that they're in such mental states. Either that or don't go back. You know, change the situation. You don't have to go back. Okay, so then half of you wants to go back because your family's there, and half of you doesn't want to go back because of the situation. And you want to have everything that you want. So if you stay here, you don't have your family. If you go there, you don't have the safety, and you don't want to give anything up. Well, I guess you could live on the border. Except then, actually, you wouldn't have either. I mean, sometimes we just have to realize that if in a choice we make, we have to give something up. We can't have everything. There's no choice that is going to give us everything we want. So then we have to weigh, well, what is more valuable to us? What is more important to us? And okay, you know, if this is my priority, then I have to accept that I have to give this up. If this is my priority, then I have to accept that I have to give that up. And even if you're giving something up, you can still apply the Dharma, like I was saying, you know, for the situation in Mexico, meditating on love and compassion, and, you know, keeping your mind in a virtuous state so that you're not filled with fear and anxiety all the time. You know, so you do that in your practice to keep yourself steady. Yeah?
And to be at peace with whatever decision you make.
Yeah. Yeah. To be at peace. I've made this decision. Yeah. And if it doesn't work out, then change. Yeah? Then you change. Your life isn't cast in concrete. Yeah.
So, kind of going back to like the precious human life, I've heard of this idea of like pure land or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
How does that fit in?
Oh, okay. So pure lands are places where they're not in the human realm, but they're places where we can get born when we've created a lot of merit and have a lot of positive aspirations to be reborn there. And they're places where there's a lot of good conditions for practicing Dharma and not as many distractions. So it's a good place to be born if you have the proper motivation. How should a beginner approach complex practices like Dzogchen and Shu? By putting them on the back burner, recognizing they are advanced practices and that you're in kindergarten. You are not a university student, you're in kindergarten. So you play with your blocks, you learn your ABCs, you do what a kid in kindergarten does. You know? I mean, let's be practical, folks. If you're in kindergarten, what are you going to do? Say, I'm going to the college course, and you know, you're 5 years old and you go plunk yourself down at MIT in a physics class? Yeah, because I'm too good for kindergarten. Kindergarten's for baby stuff. I want to do Dzogchen and Shu and Mahamudra and all the fancy stuff, you know? But meanwhile, you don't know the ABCs? It's like, let's be practical. It's, you know, it's fine to be in kindergarten, isn't it? When you're kindergarten capacity, be in kindergarten and love being in kindergarten and have a great kindergarten experience. And by doing that, you will learn your ABCs, you will learn the numbers, and then when you go to first grade, you have a really firm foundation. So what they teach you in first grade, you'll understand. Yeah? And then you enjoy being in first grade. And then you go to second grade. And that's great being in second grade because you're learning according to your own level. Yeah, and that's what we need to do. So, you know, all this high stuff, you know it's there, have an aspiration. You can be in kindergarten and aspire to go to Harvard one day. That's fine, have your aspiration. But be in kindergarten and learn, you know, make a good foundation for yourself. Okay, that's really the best way to go about it. Because the thing is, if you don't have a good foundation and you build a roof, you know, you can make this roof out of gold and decorate it with jewels, and where's your roof going to be? Flat on the ground. Because there's not even a foundation under it, it's in the dirt. Yeah? So same way, you know, as Dharma students, we have to, you know, do the practices at the beginning of the path. So if you want to do Dzogchen and Chu and all these things, start practicing on a daily basis what you're learning right here. Because this is already complicated enough for you, isn't it? Yeah? Okay, next. Oh, okay. Okay, any other questions? Anything? Yeah.
I got a blank, a couple blanks in my notes. What was the
Okay, regret. Repairing the relationships, which means taking refuge and generating bodhicitta. Third is making a determination not to do the action again. And fourth is some kind of remedial practice. Okay? That you can check. Most of my books have something about the four opponent powers. Okay? Anything else? Nobody's going to ask me about, you know, how to use the Dorjian bell and the horn and the, you know, and yeah, nobody's going to ask about Mahamudra. No questions on Mahamudra today? Okay. Yeah, I think kindergarten's great, isn't it? Yeah? Okay. Oh, one more, one brave person.
How do you know if you're having wrong views?
How do you know if you're having wrong views? If you have very stubborn mind and you're saying, I just don't believe in rebirth, no way, no how, that's a bunch of junk, okay? So it's not just doubt, it's not just curiosity, it's not just, I don't know, it's like, forget it, you know, cynical views. Or if you're saying, I don't believe Buddha Dharma Sangha exists, this is all hocus pocus. Yeah, I don't believe that my actions have an ethical dimension. You know, I can do whatever I want as long as I don't get caught. Good enough. Yeah, and you firmly believe that. Or you think, you know, human beings are inherently selfish. There's nothing we can do to overcome our selfishness, so don't even try. Or if you think, well, any of these kinds of things, you know? If I kill all the people that are the enemy of the world, then, you know, I'll be doing something good. All this kind of stuff, okay? Yeah. Uh-huh.
So then how, I don't know if this is like a good question, but how do you know that the views that are opposite that are right? I guess.
Okay. Right. Yeah, so, okay. So the thing is here, so now you have a list of wrong views. And you're going, how do I know those are wrong views? Yeah, because do I do it just because she said so? Or just because Buddha said so? You know, that's just blind faith rubbish, isn't it? Yeah, so you have to think about these things. Yeah, Dharma is really a path where you have to think, you know, and you have to really evaluate and use reason and assess and figure out what is true and what is not true. Yeah, so you listen to the teachings and you don't just go, oh yeah, I believe. Because that's not, you know, that can change in an instant. As soon as you have somebody coming tomorrow and telling you some, you know, great thing that they made up last Tuesday that's going to lead you to enlightenment, you'll believe them. Yeah, so that's why it's so important to really think about these things. And you evaluate yourself, you know. Do I believe, oh, here's another one. You know, if you're certain that the mind doesn't exist, that there's only the brain, there's no such thing as mind. Yeah. So you take one of those things and you say, well, how do I know? Yeah. Does it make sense? Do I think human beings are inherently selfish, so why even try to change? Do I really believe that? What proof do I have of it? Yeah, you say, well, everybody around me is selfish. Yeah, but does that mean everybody in the world is selfish? There's nobody who's been able to overcome their selfishness? Okay.
Someone says, my relative is having depression and rejecting the Dharma given, especially by venerable life. Other than dedicating merit to him, I don't know how else to help. For example, he gives negative remarks on certain Dharma talks. Should I then avoid saying them? Don't incorporate it into life.
Well, you don't want to force the Dharma on anybody. Yeah, so if somebody is not enjoying the Dharma talks, don't force them to listen to them. Yeah, if there's something else, you know, maybe some kind of general talk about being a good person, let your relative listen to a general talk about being a good person. That's good enough. Don't force people to listen to the Dharma, you know? And often in that kind of situation, if you show through your behavior that Buddhism is having a positive effect on you, that is what will increase your relative's interest in Buddhism much more than playing Dharma talks for them or telling them that they have wrong views and preaching right views to them. You know? You start becoming a kinder person, and all of a sudden, you know, your relatives notice, like, wow, yeah, my son never washed the dishes, and now he's actually washing the dishes. What happened to him? You know? What do you think? Yeah. Yeah, come to the Abbey. We'll teach you how to wash dishes. No, but really, you know, if you become a kinder person in your family, that is so much more reason for your relatives to be interested in the Dharma. Yeah, because they see, wow, it affects some good change.
How do I not
Can you squeeze oil out of sand? Yeah? Can you squeeze oil out of sand? No. Do you feel bad for not being able to squeeze oil out of sand? Do you feel bad for not doing something that you're not capable of doing because the circumstances aren't right? Yeah, if the circumstances aren't right, why are you putting it on yourself that you need to be able to convert this person to the Dharma? You know? They have to have some receptivity on their own side. It's not your responsibility. You be kind to them. Be considerate to them. Yeah? Be a nice person. And like I said, you know, be helpful, be kind. That's the best thing to do. And it's not your responsibility to make them into a Buddhist. My goodness. Yeah. Yeah, my family's not Buddhist. I had to accept it. You know, what am I going to do? There's no way I'm going to turn them into Buddhists. My goodness. So, yeah, I accept it. At least now, you know, they think Buddhism's kind of good. You know, I think someone said, if I had to have a religion, maybe I'd be Buddhist. But I don't have to have a religion. You know, that's good enough. Okay.